Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Associate Professor Dr. Visut Pisutha-Arnond on the stage.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. A little bit change in schedule, so please bear with me. See, should be up there. Of gems and identity challenge. So first of all, I speak here on behalf of the Gem and Jewelry Lab. So I want to thank our colleagues who helped preparing this talk. Ms. Vilawan, Tanong, Sangtip, Subalat, Namravi, Nichari, and others in the lab who helped preparing this talk. I'm not an expert in this gem, provenance gem, but I'm trying to do my best. Okay. Introduction. Actually, this is outline of my talk. Introduction, and then I'm going to talk about a little our importance of gemstone origin determination, and then going to talk about the conventional method of origin determination, and which cover the diversity from mine to the markets, and wordings on these topics. Then I'm going to talk about something that we call it alternatives. One of the examples is we call it DNA fingerprinting initiative. And another topics a little bit touch on the traceability from source to the market initiative. And then going to give some final notes, which are something which really new in the market right now. So, introduction. Gem testing laboratories worldwide have been offering not only identification of gem varieties and its treatment, but they have also offered on the synthetics and imitation. And the important thing is they also offer the origin determination. Sometimes we call it geographic location, or country of origins, or even the provenance, depending on who talking about. So that's the option that's been serviced to the trades. Among those services that I just mentioned, the most challenge to the gem lab is the origin determination of the gem because of many uncertainties and ambiguity in this difficult task, which the main subject of my talk today. Normally, when the gem lab offer the origin determination, the most common gem that they offer is the ruby, sapphire, and emeralds. That's the most common. But sometimes some lab can also offer the origin determination of the spinel, Paraiba tourmaline, alexandrite, demantoid garnet, for example. And the question is, why gemstone origin determination is so important? Why it's necessary to offer to the trades? One reason is because of the market demand. Stone from certain legendary or famous sources, when certified, get a premium price. For example, if identified as a Mogul ruby, or Kashmir sapphire, or Colombian emerald, they get a price tag for that. And another reason is, the second one is increasing awareness of the corporate social responsibility. For example, like safety, eco-friendly, no child labor, and accountabilities. That's one of the awareness of the society put on this. And the third one is the growing demand or needs for the traceability of a gem due to many, many reasons. One of the reasons is because of legal reason. Not it should be a money laundering free or conflict free gems or transparency gem. And maybe because of the political reason, like a trade ban or sanction. You heard about the US ban on the import Myanmar stone and act at 2003, or the Burmese Jade Act in 2008. That's really, but now it's believed of, but previously it used as a political reason. And another reason is ethical reason. The gem have to be fairly mined or traced, and had to be sustainability. That's one a reason for that. And the fourth is actually driven by producer or lab to offer the competitive edge, to cover their competitive edge or state-of-the-art technologies. The sample that I'm going to give today is actually a Goblin Gem Lab now offering, they call it emerald paternity test to prove the provenance of the gem, of these emeralds. And the beer blockchain traceability platform tracking diamond from mine to the consumer. So just to a little bit to the definition of traceability, what does it mean? It is based on Oxford English Dictionary. Traceability is referred to the competitiveness of the information about every step in a process of value change. And traceability is also the ability to the chronologically interrelate unique identifiable entity in a way that is verifiable. Traceability is also ability to verify the history, location, or application of an item by means of document and record identifications. That's really perfectly fit the meaning of that. Now, I want to talk about the conventional method of origin determination, which most of the labs have used for determination of the origin. For this conventional method, the important criteria that they use to distinguish origin is, the first one is they have to have the general knowledge of geological or geological nature of the deposit, of the stone, and the traits. And the secondly is also they have to recognize the internal diagnostic or locality-specific features that really pinpoint where that stone comes from. For example, they can use the fluid inclusion, 2, 3-phase or multi-phase inclusion, like for example in emerald, or mineral inclusions or solid inclusion. Maybe they can use the Raman spec to verify that, and also ghost structures of the stone. And also another means of identification is used, they call it chemical fingerprinting. They use major trace elements, minor element by DXIF, or even right now they more commonly use LSPMS. Further than that, improving the analysis and then try to fingerprint where the stone comes from. And also the spectral characteristic, UV visible NIR or FTIR, that's also very helpful to distinguish sometimes. And also optical and physical properties. For example, refractive index or specific gravity, for example, for emerald, that's very helpful. And also, the last one is luminescent behavior. That's also another sometimes help. Yes. Okay. By careful evaluation and interpretation of all observed features, combined with the result from additional advanced analysis, or they call it holistic approach, certain stones oftentimes possible to discriminate the origin. Actually, the ultimate goal of the origin determination is actually be able to track or trace from the mine to the market, like from raw material to treatment, cutting, grading, and selling. Okay, that's the total. But actually, to go to that, from mine to the market itself, you have to pass through a lot of diversity, because there's a very long journey from its birth to the consumer. Okay, start with the geological origin. Okay, geological origin or geo origin is the most complex and difficult to understand. And then you have to mine it to recover the raw materials and treatment. That's also create more uncertainty to the stone, to the origin determination. And then how can we track from that to cutting, grading, wholesaling, certification, detailing, and to the end consumer? That's a long way. that as Sissy just mentioned, it may be passed to hundreds and hundreds of people before it gets to your hand. Okay. Now, we want to look at the first geological origin first. Actually, geologically, we have a lot of challenge from the diversity of gemstone. You heard about biodiversity. Now I'm going to talk about geodiversity. Okay, geodiversity actually gives diverse geological properties, both in physical and chemical properties of gem materials or gem minerals at various locality or deposit due to the different in terms of pressure, temperatures, and condition of the gem formation. Actually, you have variation in pressure, temperature, and also the host rock, or even the fluid condition that form the mineral. It's different from place to place. So that was it. But such geodiversity or diversity of geological property as well has been used as a basis criteria to distinguish the provenance or origin of the gem where it's crystallized. To outline the diversity of the geological origin, I based this on work of Dibma and his colleague. They classified the gem corundum into based on the host rocks into, call it primary origin and then secondary origins. The primary origin actually, it depends on where the ruby and sapphire or the corundum would host in what kind of rocks. It can be hosting in magmatic rocks, or we call it magmatic origin. It can host in syenite, basalt, or mafic intrusion. Also, a lot of them also host in metamorphic host rock like the marble, gneiss, granite, granulite, chalcocite, amphibolite, mafic, ultramafic, and andesite. And also, you can have a mix of the magmatic and metamorphic, like in pegmatite. When you have a pegmatite intruded in the sediment, you have a metamorphism, or we call it metasomatics, to have a desiccation of that and can produce a lot of gem. From those primarily, after it weathers and eroded and then it's transported to the livers, and you can form what we call a secondary deposit. It can be either alluvium, which is not far from the source, or alluvium, which is a bit further, or even the placer deposit, which is formed in the gravel bed. That's the kind of ruby and sapphire that been mined or found. Okay? And now I'm going to give an example of diversity of geological origin of ruby deposit. This is actually based on the occurrence or geology of the ruby deposits of the world. The oldest one actually in the East African, in Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, and Madagascar. This deposit actually a metamorphic deposit related to the Pan-African orogeny, approximately 800 to 400 million years ago. It's very old. Okay? And the next important source up to now, I mean, it's the, what we call the marble host metamorphic ruby belt, which related to Himalayan orogeny, approximately 65 million years ago up to now. And the third source, important source, is in Thai-Cambodia border. Actually, this is a Siamese ruby associated with Cenozoic basaltic volcanism. That's less than 25 million years ago. That's the three main sources of ruby of the world up to now. I mean, in the future, maybe different product, like in Greenland or something. Okay, now I'm going to look at the metamorphic rubies and sapphire deposit related to the Pan-African orogeny at 800 to 450 million years ago. Actually, this orogeny took place when African, India, and Antarctica was conglomerated together in one single mass. They called it Gondwana at about 550 million years ago. And this part, East African area like Mozambique and Tanzania and Madagascar, Southern India, Sri Lankan, are together under the same geological condition to form the ruby and sapphire. Okay, before it split off. So after that, when it split off, the India was moving northwest, okay, until it collided with the Asia and formed Himalayan belt, Himalayan mountain. And when it collided, subduct into the Asian, limestone over there was metamorphosed, and then there's some ruby deposit associated with that marble, and they had been called it marble belt, marble metamorphic ruby belt, and that led to the Himalayan orogeny about 65 million years ago. You can see that this has been some dating, mica or focopite dating on this. This is done by a team from French. For example, this is range from Afghanistan, about 24, 25 million years. This is Akjek Dalek and Hansa Valley, it's about 10 million years. And then in Shumao, about 5 million years. And Nepal, this is the youngest one, 4.6 million years. And in Mogok, Myanmar, that's about 18 million years. And this one in Lukyan, in probably 38 million years, so that's a bit old. And Genbai, about 24 million years. So it's just about the age of that collision. Now come to another occurrence or another geologic event that really produced ruby and sapphire. This one is actually a Thai basalt volcanism that, not only Thai, but all over several places. I want to show you here, it's very well studied on the origin of this ruby and sapphire related to basaltic volcanism. This is actually represent the cross section from the west of Thailand. This is something somewhere in Kanchanaburi. And this is on the east of Thailand, that's Chantaburi and Trat, even cross border to the Pailin in Khmer, Cambodia. Okay, in Kanchanaburi, they have a lot of study on this. And they have been found that actually sapphire in Kanchanaburi is associated what they call a cyanide or cyanitic rocks. That's a precursor, a potolith of the sapphire over there. And it's formed in very shallow, probably in the crust layers, middle or lower crust. And there's been some dating on the zircon inclusion in the sapphire. And it's found out that they can be dated at 2411 or 4 million years ago. Okay? And then actually, after you have a basaltic magma underneath, and has been dated about 3 to 4 million years younger there, and then it erupt and then passed to this sapphire bearing layer and brought the sapphire up to the surface in Kanchanaburi or Bopoi areas before it was loaded and then spot into the gravel bed. Okay, that's the idea that we understand it. And it's formed not the same time. It's just sporadically formed that bearing. And then we come to the east. Actually, in Chantaburi, also very similar, probably occur in the Khao Phoi Wan, where you have a sapphire, blue, green, yellows type in here. And it's just interesting is that in Trat area, which is now very well studied, they found that actually the ruby, the potolith, precursor of the ruby, Thai ruby, it's actually from a different depth. From calculation, they found that it was depth at about 30 to 50 kilometers, much deeper. So it's probably down to lower crust or upper mantle. And temperatures about 700 to more than 1,000 degrees. And probably formed earlier. This is a potolith of the ruby bearing, and they found that it's host in mafic granulite, which is different kind of rocks, very basic type. And then basalt was dated about 3 million years, passing through this ruby-bearing mafic granulite and brought it up to the surface. And then later you mine from that after it's loaded. So that's the story of the ruby and sapphire, the delayed volcanism. And actually, ruby was deeper and more of the mafic type. Okay? Now I want to concentrate on this ruby, South Siamese ruby, which is associated with Sinozoic basalt. The only place commercial ruby that associated with the basaltic type is only found in Trat and Pailin, and we dub it as Siamese ruby. Okay, it's normally mined from the alluvium deposit, and we know now that actually the host actually is mafic granulite, which composed of cyanobroxine, plagioclase, spinel, garnet, and some rubies. And that's picked up by basalt at about less than 3 million years ago. There's also some report, the similar type, basaltic type ruby actually from Hughes, you report that, Baringo in Kenya. But that's not really a commercial yet. I think only the commercial one and been in large amount actually from this place. And also maybe some report occurrence of ruby and pink sapphire in Barrington, in volcano, in Australia, also in New South Wales area. But that's not really a commercial. So we can consider that Siamese ruby or Thai-Cambodian ruby actually is very, very unique and very extremely rare in terms of occurrence. Okay? It's not only that. This is a sample of the ruby-bearing mafic granulite that was found in the basalt. And this is a small-scale mining. And this is a kind of typical inclusion features, or we call it locality-specific inclusion that used to pinpoint that this stone is come from the basaltic type ruby. Okay, this is what we call a thin film, or sometimes we call it dub as a Saturn-like inclusion. And in Thai, we call it Lai Thai. Okay, it's been known as a Lai Thai, either this way or similar to that. That's a very, very unique kind of appearance. And it can be a very small dot like that, like a, several, and also a big one, okay? And then a lot of thin film around it. Sometimes they call it equatorial thin film. And then they said that actually the center is a negative crystal, and then expand it out. But if you see this stone, this crystal, sometimes they say that it's a negative crystal, but I'm not really convinced about that. Okay, now I'd like to show you something interesting, just come out from our team, Supalat, and from our lab, just doing the research, master degree right now, hadn't finished yet. She found from Bowe, Velu, she found inclusion, which actually is a melt. It's a solid melt and the CO2 in the inclusion itself. Okay, this is quite unique. And if you look carefully, actually in this inclusion, there's two phases here. This is a liquid CO2, and this is a vapor CO2, and this is liquid CO2. And then you have a melt, actually a three-phase inclusion in there. And you can see this thin film around it. So what we believe, this is untreated, just picked up from the ground. And we think that this kind of a thin film actually formed by heating of maybe basaltic magma before it picked up to the surface. It heat up this stone. And because of the heat, CO2 is here will expand and then burst to form a thin film originally from underground. But when you mine it and then you treat it with heat, then you produce more thin film, a lot of thin film. So, but originally it does have thin film from the beginning. Maybe the salt itself was actually the cause of that. the heat from the salt. And she also, Supalat also found interesting inclusion. She probed of this inclusion, and we found it's pyrope garnet, pyropic garnet, and diabatic carnoproxene, some pyrrhotite, iron sulfide, and anorthite, feldspar, selemonite, and spinel. So spinelite is very special because it's indication that it's metamorphic type rocks. And also this mineral assemblage here actually agree quite well with the mafic granulite syenolite that had been found. So mafic granulite composed of carnoproxene, petrocase, spinel, garnet, and ruby. So perfectly fit quite well. And also, this is another inclusion that we found in the Thai ruby, or Siamese ruby. That's interesting bromide tube, and it's also repeated twinning. Now, if you look at the other occurrence, like, for example, in Baringo, this is from the huge, I took it from your books, okay? So actually, it's not red. It's a little bit more pinkish. It's not similar to the Thai. So actually, we can separate it, that even if we don't have much information about this space in terms of inclusion and something like that. And I tried to, this one it's very rare, fancy basaltic sapphire from Bopoi, okay, many colors. But I want to show you this is actually, there's a pink and violet sapphire, you know, that found in Panchaburi as well, but it's not that red to classify as a ruby. Still, not that much of the world to have a ruby like in Siamese ruby or Thai ruby. It's very unique. Also, the Thai ruby was a little bit very high, contained very high iron. Okay, it's comparable to metamorphic type ruby from African. And it clearly can be separated from marble host ruby quite well because there's very low iron. Okay, both this is a Ti Fe prot and this is a vanadium Fe prot. So it clearly separates. You don't mix it up. But you may be mixed with the African. But the Thai is so unique because the inclusion is so unique. Not anywhere in the world you can find this kind of a light Thai or something. So that's really unique, really easy. Now I move to the next ruby. This is marble host metamorphic ruby belt led to Pan-African, to the Himalayan orogeny. The important locality that supply to the world ruby from this type is from Mogok and Mongshu. Mogok and Mongshu is actually not the same, okay? Slightly different in terms of features or inclusions, and also in Lukyen. Jekdalex, Hansa, Nagimali, or Kuilat, or Chamal is not that big deposit. So the important one is these three places. You can see Mogok was associated with very coarse-grained calcite marble. And Mongshu a little bit more toward dolomitic type marble and fine grain. And Lukyen is also a medium grain marble. Okay, the rest is something similar, also host in the marble, and also they are related with the Himalayan orogeny. This is the example of the ruby from Mogok. Okay, the diagnostic or locally specific inclusion features is calcite, transparent calcite inclusion, maybe somewhat rounded, irregular, and also the lutite silk, very patchy type, and also a cloud of minute needles. And also a short needle like seal-like inclusion in a patch-like. And important one is also swirl growth structures that are good indication of a Mogok type ruby. And now we move to the Mongshu ruby deposit. They are really mined from the primary deposit, actually mined from the fine-grained dolomitic lime marble. Okay, this is example of the ruby host in fine-grained dolomitic marble with a little bit of thermolite. And also this is a rough sample which about, the limbs of the greenish limb. The typical of the monk shoe is a blue core, dark blue core underneath, which can be heat treated to lighter color, or also the blue patch. That's very unique for these places. And also, you can see this is a big pieces. You can see alternating zone red to blue, colorless to blue, and some inclusion like this is a dark, deep red rutile, rhombic dolomite, and also some corroded calcite in this stone. Also, another typical of the untreated marble monk shoe is a little bit of minute cloudy type inclusion that found in here. But when he treated it, become clear. It gets rid of this minute stuff. And a little bit on the Lugyen. Lugyen also holds mostly in the medium grain marble. Okay, now this is some ruby was housed in marble, and sometimes they mine it from erosion of this into some kind of a clay or something, and this is a product. Lugyen can also produce, inclusion, but sometimes similar to mogok. Okay, and also this is tube-like, and so I don't have much of the inclusion there. But when you plot the ruby from this marble host type into this diagram, you can see a lot of overlapping. You can separate a little bit, but mostly overlapping. So very hard to use the chemical fingerprint to separate one place from the others. So this is like from Vietnam, from Myanmar, Mogok, and Mongshu or something, and we can include also in Thai in here. No, not Thai, sorry. Lockland, Kenya, it's here because it's low iron. So if we try another kind of plot, like a 3D plot, and use a ratio instead, this is a Mogok, Mongshu, Lugyen, Quay Chau, Vietnam, and Tajikistan, and Kenya, okay. And it can be better to separation. Okay, can you show this? This is, I want to rotate a little bit. You can see that you can see better in terms of 3D to separation of different ruby from chemical composition from different mine. So that's another thing that can be helpful for picking up or separate the origin by using chemical fingerprinting. Okay, that's probably it. Let's stop. Okay, now the next one is ruby from this metamorphic deposit related to Pan-African in Kenya, Tanzania, Mozambique, and Madagascar. I showed you only one. Actually, the large supply of the ruby of the world right now is from Mozambique, from Nang Tepus or Nambula. Currently, probably up to 80% of production. And mainly can be formed in secondary or in primary, like a corundum, palakasite, spinel, anorthite, amphibolite. And they also calculate the temperature and pressure and temperature as well. Okay, this is a work of that. And then also you can have some from Tanzania, Longido. Previously, we know that Longido is ruby zoisite amphibolite, which very low grades. But now there's a few samples that high grades are coming to the market. And though Mahenge, Morogoro, not that much, and then Songir, a little bit more brownish, not ruby type. And this from ruby. And also, previously, it's Windsor also another place that's been found before a big boom in Mozambique. But it stopped right now, I think. All of them are actually associated with either amphibolite, rocks, okay, and then it's related to the high-grade metamorphism of Pan-African orogeny. And also another place in Mangali, in Kenya, that Johnso mine, that's also produced pegmatite cutting into serpenite, and Madagascar also in Ilagaga, and more toward the pink. And that formed in what they call a Paleoplacer deposit, a Triassic age 200 to 250 million years ago, and they call it Isolo Formation. Actually, it probably derived from the Pan-African older, much older. And then also you have in Andalimina, Watermandi, and Silabe, and recent one is Didi that had been found as a large. And all of these are really illustrated Pan-African. To show you a little bit of the, Mozambique type, actually this is a ruby host in amphibolite rocks. This is a low-grade type, a lot of fractures, and this is a high-grade, good quality one. And also you can find this ruby, you see that hexagonal section, and an aggregate of ruby, but it's actually from a hexagonal outline, and with green amphibolite, amphibole or something. And this is a commercial type. And the characteristic of this Mozambique ruby actually is a minute thin film inclusion. And then also if you magnify it, as you can see sometimes the arrowhead thin film, very beautiful. Also the zone of minutes, similar to that, and maybe some mica crystal. If you plot those metamorphic type ruby, actually it's very hard to differentiate one from the others. That's of course some problem, but by looking at the inclusion feature, maybe you'll be able to separate Mozambique from the rest or something. And maybe trying with the 3D plot, maybe be able to differentiate. So I don't want to show that. Now, the next one is challenge from the mining and recovery of the raw materials. It can be a more small-scale mining or large-scale mining, like this one in Thailand, small scale. And then this one is large scale in Kanchanaburi, very big in 1999, the biggest in Southeast Asia. Right now, it's still mining a little bit more, but not that much. For the small-scale mining, actually, due to the nature of the gem deposits, often very small, sporadic occurrence in remote and inaccessible areas, and commonly discovered by local prospectors and causing uncontrollable gem loss. Mining mostly carried out by small-scale artisanal miner, and normally they have no geological study, no exploration and evaluation of the deposit, and proper mining method. As a result of that, resource may not be fully extracted, and maybe you got a loss of the large percentage of material loss by this kind of uncontrolled mining. But the good thing about it is that local people may have direct benefit from the resource because they mine himself and sell them. In terms of our approach on the lab, it's very difficult to get reliable representative sample from the deposit and tracking to the origin. That's one of the big challenges that a lot of us facing to get a good representative sample from those kind of mine. For the large-scale mining operation, often mined in a well-known large deposit with controlled mining license and acreage by large corporation or multinational enterprise. They more normally have a well-geological study, exploration evaluation program of the deposit, and an advanced mining method. They can fully rough recoveries from the deposit with the minimum percent of the loss. And they have a good control on the production and resource, but the bad point about it is the resource could be exhausted very quickly due to the large-scale exploitation. Like, for example, in Kanchanaburi, because they lease to the big mining company, they can mine in 2 decades and then wipe everything out. But that opposite to Sri Lankan mining operation, they not allow a big operation, so they can last hundreds of years. So it's a pro and con kind of a policy on that. But for the large-scale mining, actually, you get a reliable representative sample, and tracking origin is much easier or better because you know where it comes from. Okay? Then there's challenge from the treatment. The origin determination mostly done on untreated ruby and sapphire. That's that normally we do. Or for the amylo, it's maybe it put oil or lysine field, you can be able to identify it. But still, we haven't been fully understood the effect of various treatment on the diagnostic locality-specific characteristic. And another question is, could some ruby and sapphire undergo low temperatures or classical heating still able to determine the origin? Maybe possible, some of them. I think some of the labs have been offering that too. To give you an idea like this one I took from these sources. This is a very fine alternating zone of color and silky turbid. A key feature, one of the key features to tell it's a cashmere sapphire. What happens if this silky type fine had been treated by heat? It's going to change this characteristic, and then we cannot recognize it anymore. Or even the short and long silk in mogok, the typical of the mogok ruby. Is that going to be affected by the heat until we cannot recognize it anymore? That's a big challenge too. And we know that some zircon, this is some of the thesis that have been done before, several years ago. Zircon actually, when it untreated, become very clear. But when you heat treat it to high temperature, like for 1600s, become breakdown, turbid, and unable to recognize. This is a pink sapphire from Ilagaga. Okay, that's another big challenge. Okay, to end the work of this conventional method of origin determination, for the advantage, this technique can be used to investigate the stone in the market worldwide, both in the past and at the present time, as well as the stone in the consumer hand. So you can do it anytime you want it, no problem, okay? And it can give a reliable outcome when careful evaluation and interpretation of all observed features combined with additional results from the advanced analysis. Okay, but the con or disadvantage of this technique is that it requires a reliable representative and constantly update reference collection of samples from all commercially relevant mining areas worldwide. So that's a big task that you have to really keep update and collect a good representative sample. And it also requires several basics and increasingly more advanced equipment to create a reliable database and discrimination. So a lot of investment, and also even in human resources, you need expertise and specialized gemologists with geological background to really try to synthesize or holistically interpret the result. And also, it's not every stone can be identified its origins. Only a certain number of stones that show obviously locality-specific features and unique physical, chemical, and specific characteristics that can assign. And what we can assign is the most probable origin of geographic origin of the stone. That's the opinion. Okay, it's not telling the exact one. And then some stone from several similar geological occurrences may not be discriminated due to the lacking of diagnostic features or overlapping physical, spectral, or chemical fingerprinting, which a lot of them cannot really identify at all. And as I mentioned, report origin is still considered as professional opinion, which should be different among the lab. That's why we have a lot of controversial in the trades that one lab issue from Myanmar, another lab from Madagascar or something. So it's a lot of controversial on that. But we have to face that. Okay. And now try to move to the other alternative, which now is a new thing that come to the market. One is DNA fingerprinting from the source, and then second one is traceability from source to the market. Okay, this actually Goblin just announced recently that they have issued they call it emerald paternity test. Okay, it's a breakthrough in provenance proof. They can prove the provenance. What they do is they They call it DNA-based nanoparticle, okay? And then they can put the information of the this is only for Amaro. Okay, they put the characteristic or even where and when it was mined, the date or something, locality specifically, into that nanoparticle-based or DNA-based nanoparticle. And then apply directly to the crystal at the mine site. And because of the emerald had a lot of fractures, this nanoparticle can penetrate into the fractures and stay there. They have a billion and million of that nanoparticle in the fractures. And they said that they after that, those particles could stay in the fractures and then survive, and being able to retrieve it by authorized lab at any stage of the supply chains, okay, and actually and to the end consumer. So that's the way to prove that its origin, where it's come from. But that have to be really put at the mine site, and you need a very good, reliable mining source to start with that. And another question I'd like to put here is, can it be applicable to ruby and sapphire, which have less of the fractures? Like emerald is a lot of fracture. You can have a nanoparticle penetrate into the fractures, but ruby sapphire, some of them doesn't have much of the fracture. Can it stay? And if it stay, if we heat treat it, can that nanoparticle still stable at high temperatures? That's another thing that we have to think about. But this is a very good approach. I think it's a very nice approach. And this is the only one that I see. And also, another traceability from source to the market initiative. And the beer at May 10 or 18 this year, 2018, media released that the beer group successfully tracked first diamonds from mine to the retail on industrial blockchain. They use an industrial blockchain platform to track from the source, from the mine to the end consumer. Okay, this is a digital type try to tracking, use the technology. Previously, they use a Kimberley process. That's probably a document kind of a tracking. But this one is more advanced, so you can track that also. That's a new area, new approach that we have to really be aware of. And also, another company, or IBM and Line, have collaborated on the new initiative. They call it Trust Chains, an open source blockchain technology that tracks the entire supply chain of a product from metal and gemstone source to the finished pieces. Currently in its pilot phase, this line hopes to scale the project to industrial worldwide. So that's another a similar kind of with the beer. But that's probably, if open source, then everyone can access and then use that for tracking. So now that's also a big threat to the industry, or we have to really consider that too. Okay, that's a two important point that I like to mention. And to give you the final notes on this other alternative, the pole advantage is a definite proof of the provenance, and also in terms of testability, also in case of blockchain platform, and also it helps for transparency, reliability, and value of gem in the trades. And that's definitely gonna boost the trust and confidence of the luxury gem product. But in terms of disadvantage or con that I can think of, it probably cannot be applied to the stone that already out of the mine or into the market or into consumer hand, because it's already in the trades. And actually, it should require a reliable mining enterprise and all participating party or the value chain to get involved in this traceability process. And it's still very, very new, so it's not quite understandable to the trade and consumer yet. So, and then another thing that we worry is that this could be used as a non-tariff barrier to the small and medium enterprise in the developing countries in the global gem market. So that's maybe the big company will take over every small business that we are afraid of too, because not artisan miner, actually their family and children have to depend on tiny bit of those stones that they have to live with. But this technique, this new technology was coming, they're going to survive. They're going to wipe out from industry. So that's a lot of trade from that. So that's it of my talk. Okay, I'd like to thank Kun Dwangkamon, our director, for support, and also Kun Pida give me some information about this blockchain technology, and also the GIT Gem Lab who really helped put together this talk. I really appreciate that. So thank you for your attention. Okay, thank you.